It's a good picture. It's a good picture. So, barring the squeakiness of my chair, where last we left off with our brave, intrepid heroes. They were getting a little familiar with the Silver Pine Forest. They ventured through after being teleported to the Dalaran crater, and crawling their way out, they murdered a couple of innocent townspeople, immediately blurted where their location was from, assessed that there were too many individuals to easily take out before they ran away and scattered and hid, and etc. So, this random no-name town in the middle of Hillsbrad knows that there are 3 mages from Dalaran that were here earlier, and that they slaughtered a few, maybe like 2 families worth of people. It's okay. It happens. It happens, you know? It's okay. There's nothing to worry about. Then, at the end of the session, they came across an encounter that I made accidentally too deadly. Discussed that in the last video. So, we pick up there. In between those sessions, I made some retcons. There was the retcon of the loot gathered. In the last session, I rolled for loot randomly. Did not feel nearly high, like a high enough amount of loot to make up for the challenge that was. And I didn't want to retcon the challenge. So those characters were still as incredibly impressive to fight and difficult to beat. But I increased their loot tables by a lot. I gave them a bunch of gems and gold pieces and platinum pieces and some weird little things like black chalk and sets of color tokens for game boards and a few other magic items and some scrolls, including a letter. I'll pull that letter up right now, actually. But after that, I also made an adjustment to my rulings. I brought down the levels required to access different spell brackets. It's maybe 1 or 2 levels slower than 5e at the current point. We're going to test that out for a little while. Ultimately, if I don't end up liking it, we will change it further. It is a heavily homebrewed game. It is what it is. On the letter, it's all written in Orcish. They see the name of Nikara signed at the bottom, along with a big Orcish stamp of the symbol of the Horde in red. They don't know what it says just yet. We'll get into that later. I'm sure it's nothing. They carry on through the woods and rest for the night at a watchtower. They see a band of heroic peasants late that night during one of the players' watches, adventuring up through the Hillsbrad fields. They do not stop at the tower. They do not wish to get caught in whatever horde traps may lay. These mages were human, or half-elf, and this is the way they went. Only a fool would stop at this tower. Ultimately, nothing occurred at this tower. How interesting. Regardless, the humans pressed on. 2 on horses, 6 on ground, equipped with hatchets and a pitchfork or 2 and woodcutting axes and whatever they could find. They have amassed a small platoon, and they are ready to take on these brave heroes. They venture further beyond, into a silver pine forest, deep in the night, expecting to get the drop on our heroes. Players don't investigate further. They decide to stay asleep. Guy on watch keeps vigil. Nothing occurs. Next morning rolls around. A little spell mishap from one of my players. That's okay. Mistakes happen, you know. They move on into Silver Pine Forest. One of my priests, uses the Prayer of Vision and gets access to a brief glimpse into the future of what will happen if they follow a predetermined path. Something along the lines of what happens if we stay on the northern path and don't divert, blah, 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 blah. In the vision, he encounters a mass of viscera and something jumping at them from the woods before the vision ends. How intense, how dramatic. They stay the course, and eventually they do find some viscera and the remains of maybe half a horse. The peasants were not so lucky. They encountered the wolfman. You win some, you lose some, eh? Carrying on, they planned, because knowing with foresight that a creature will jump at them makes it a little bit harder for the creature to get a surprise round. Not that the creature knows that. Well, they stay the course, and eventually 4 Worgen jump from the woods and attack them. Battle music starts. Dum 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 dum. Dramatic music, whatever. Tabletop audio. They fight the Worgen, and then their next turn they realize the Worgen are running down the path, past them, through them. They're cutting through this path to get away from something. Boom. Right as they use some of their resources to attack these Worgen, that's when the real Wolfman jumps out, the giant one. He comes out, he's got an elite token. They rough him up, there's a little bit of fighting. I got incredibly bad rolls for him. It is what it is. Eventually, the Wolfman decides to retreat back into the forest. It's his favorite terrain. These people aren't familiar with these woods. But my priest rolls a natural 20 on a tracking check. Now the tracking is an actual stat. I don't remember what I rolled at the time. Probably survival. Whatever it was, she got a nat 20. They are able to follow this Wolfman through for a few hours into the woods. And eventually, they come across a clearing with a downward slope off the path that leads into a wooded, like a walled with logs village, firewood village, and an upward ascent into a nearby mountain with the vigil, the top parts of a keep visible. They can tell that the Wolfman went up the ascending path based on the minute amount of blood particles being dropped at the tail end of my priest's tracking. They ascend, and they meet the Wolfman clawing helplessly at a keep door, a wooden portcullis, I suppose. Atop that tower, Shadowfang Keep, sits a ominous-looking mage of gray and black and white decor. His mask, his face completely covered with this large horned helm and this high gray bandana. He holds a staff of a rotating metal belt that circles around a green flame with an iron rod base. There's some small talk. He tells them to clean up their fucking mess. The fight continues. My players believe one of them was rather perceptive. Notices this creature, this mage, points a finger at Magnus, our warlock. Magnus makes a roll. Nothing happens. It's fine, I'm sure. They kill the Wolfman as it's retreating back towards the gate when it knows its demise is inevitable. And there's a bit of a standoff. This mage is at the top of the keep. They don't know what he's capable of. He has a pretty good assessment of what they can do. He's seen them battle this thing, cast some spells, smack it up with some maces, block a few attacks with a shield, etc. Well, eventually, my players kind of need this body, and they know it's got a little bit of loot on it. This Wolfman has this odd helmet strapped around its head too tightly, has this backpack that is taut over its torso and around its arms. It's a small belt with some bottles and potions clinking, a scroll, a scribe's case. They need it. So they have to get a little bit closer to the keep. And they do. Amora stealthily stays back and starts drawing the chalk circle so that they can transport the body. And when they get closer to the keep door, they're able to see a little bit into the keep, this kind of narrow passageway that feeds into the courtyard of the keep, along with rooms that shoot off of it. And they can see, just in this narrow hallway, another 5, 6, 7 of these guys just crammed in there that all kind of take note of them. And when they do, they get a little bit closer to the door and they start getting a little feisty, as would maybe a zoo animal who has not had a keeper around to be fed and is clawing or biting at the cage to feast on whatever creature it is that is on the other side, helplessly. A little bit of rabble ensues. The mage says, "I know your faces now. I will find you." He just wanted the items back, but my players so greedily opted to take all of the items and the body. How foolish. They get into the circle. Looks like the mage is about to do something, but he stops, and they leave. Teleport back to Dalaran. They bring the Wolfman's body through the streets. They get some weird looks, but people make a clear path for him back to the medical ward or whatever it was. Daedrin is like, "Sweet, you got it." And he calls up one of the Council's 6 members. I believe it was Khadgar and Modera that appeared. Khadgar, Autolux Resilience fears it. A little bit of telekinesis. I don't care if that's actually how the spell works, so I don't give a shit. Oh wait, no. That was for the hammer. My apologies. Different campaign. He shrinks it using the reduce spell, and then telekinesis it. They carry on. They are brought back into the Violet Citadel. This is the second session afterwards, I believe. And they arrange prices. Because last time, it was said that you would get up to 10,000 gold based on damage of the body. My players were pretty mindful to not use any piercing or slashing attacks. Mostly a lot of spells that kind of affect the mind. Mind Spike is one of them, Toll the Dead, etc. And after a brief discussion with the council members, the council opts to give them only, I think, 8,000 gold. And Vargoth stands up for him. These characters, have been working pretty well in line with Vargoth's ideals, barring at the start where they chose Khadgar's mission over Vargoth's. Intentional move by me. They've kind of been doing everything the way Vargoth has asked. They're getting a little bit of respect from this guy, and he stands up for him. He says that they are some of the most competent allies that they have in the city at this moment. They are excelling at an exceptional rate for newcomers, and they're already doing work for the Council of Six. At the very least, following the precautions and the guidelines set as loose as they were, we could give them the full gold. Khadgar submits, and he gets him another 2,000 gold. That is when Vargoth butters him up. He says, we sent some mages, a couple of apprentices, 3 of them, up into Winterspring a few weeks ago when you brought us back that potion of greater aging, that one that can increase your intellect beyond 20. He doesn't say that part, that's metagame, but they know what it does. He says he's been scrying on them the last few days, and one of the days they went up to a northern peak. It's kind of hard to keep track of when you only have 3 of them to scry on. But they went up to a peak, and the next time he was able to scry on them, they were on their way back down the peak, back to Everlook, and they looked pretty jovial. They looked like they had succeeded. And with Sending Spell, they said, we got it. We got something that we think fits the bill. And the next day, when he tried to scry on them, didn't connect. Tried sending them, no response. Very odd. So if you 3 would be willing to go on up to Winterspring at your next earliest convenience, although you did get a pretty penny here, we arranged that you would get the first few set of the Greater Aging Potions, and this is our next lead, so if you want those potions, you got to put in a little bit of legwork. We're doing all the behind-the-scenes stuff. You got to do the menial stuff. It's okay. They accept. They do have to delay it by a week. There's an important Shadow Priest figurehead coming to help dear old Amora out. That's the end of the first session. Next session starts. We do a little bit of class leveling. We do a little bit of role-playing scenes. I found them quite adorable. Eventually, the Shadow Priest figurehead shows up, along with a few of her goons. It is a human woman, along with an orc male, another human woman, and those 3 set off with bringing the party along. This woman's name is Coria. She was told by the trader, my Shadow Priest's trainer in town primarily, that she can expect somebody to stick around with her. Maybe 3, probably just 1. Ultimately, Shenox / Erevan opts to not involve himself with this adventure. He wishes to learn spells, which he fails to do. Regardless, hindsight, Magnus and Amora stick around with Coria for the day. And Coria sends him off with Relier, the orc male. He says he's got to go buy some gems of the higher qualities, and he's got to go get a sword from the underbelly. He goes on down to the gem merchant, the jeweler, with a bag of true silver coins, an incredibly rare currency. He pays for every single legendary and epic gem in Dalaran. Every single one of them. It seems like it was with abandon. He didn't care what they were. He was ordered to buy them all. Buy them all he did. Next up, he met back up with Coria, explains that he's got all the gems, hands them off to her. She, the party will see, has gained another follower, a Tauran man. He looks kind of older, streaks of white and gray in his mane, and no, not mane because they're not tigers, but they're Tauran. Their whole body's covered in fur. Red robes with this yellowish gilding upon like the parts where it connects down the center, and definitely along the base. And she is talking to a tattoo artist, a blood elf female named Vess. She's recruiting her as well. This is mostly, what would be the best word? Prequeling it for my other campaign that's happening, explaining how Coria got all these allies. Regardless, Relier and the two, Magnus and Amora, are sent off to go to the underbelly and get his sword. He makes pretty trivial work of this. He had a plan. He finds the guy, subterfuges as the drop-off guy, banishes him with a fucking, I think it's 5th level spell. Takes a sword, puts his in the wrapping in place of it, the one that he had before, and they just fucking bail. They pass another guy who looks like was probably actually the drop-off guy, but regardless, it is done. They meet back up with Coria in her rented suite, not a pocket dimension like the party has as like a long-term stay. This is a temporary stay. They witness a dramatic event occur. It seems like Coria, standing out on the balcony with Vess and Rosalind, beckons over Relier and Magnus and Amora and says, it should be happening any minute now. And eventually, something occurs in the streets of Dalaran. Allow me to try and find it. It's a little bit up in my notes in a weird order. Here we go. One second. As they are watching from the balcony, there's a violet guard. These like elite level like guardians of the city. It's a mage city, so you got to have really competent guards that are like high level, well equipped, etc. There are groups of people all throughout the city, as always. There are big amassed groups of nobles and mages and even the occasional priests, etc. Bunch of guards on every corner of this area trying to rout people, but there's just so many of them. It's a late Friday night. Everybody was out drinking. Everybody was out having a little bit of fun. It's Dalaran. This place is safe. One of the guards shouts up a command as there is this blur that flies through the sky, maybe 30 feet above the ground. One of the wardens tracks the guy with his hand, yells out some arcane words, blur falling forward and downward into the stone pillar, holding up a large purple counterspell crystal, not glowing as brightly as usual. There's a loud crunch and the vision of bludgeoning visible on the structure. He hit this thing going hella fast, even despite his smaller stature. As he groans, a warden yells out to prepare counterspell. Injured man raises both of his hands and pushes outwards towards the balcony of a nearby building. A guard with a hand on his temple has a puff of magic disperse around his palm outward from the man as he yells outward. The crowd moves nervously, a startled cry. They've been routed, and now they're kind of in this weird choke point in this gigantic courtyard of the northern part of the city, in between the Artisan's Alley and the centermost like noble buildings. Crowd moves, startled cry. The man heaves his weight up as he teleports upward to another balcony to get a good view just on the opposite side of where Coria is, on the like right at the start, looking outward from the Artisan Alley side instead of the noble district. He heaves his weight up into one arm and extends his hand outward with the other. Beneath it, in an open palm, the distinct visuals of the Circle of Death spell begin to glow green around the vicinity of this gigantic crowd amassed. Crowds, people scream, they push against each other. Some of them throw fireballs and frost bolts and fire bolts, etc. Lightning bolts zip and crash and burn. The man holds strong. And then Coria says, "Now please, Relier," as the man yells, "For the crusade!" and is cut off as a jolt of energy blasts outward from Coria at the balcony. The man hits the wall behind him and then leers forward, losing his stance. Ground seeds away into stone as he falls forward. There, Relier flips into existence. knee upward already in motion, a noise akin to stone meeting bone as the metal knee pad of Relier spikes upward into the man's skull. Just as the man yells, the fist of the orc clenches and a 15-foot radius sphere of light pink energy grows outward from him and dissipates into a glossy texture. Relier continues to beat the man, kicks, punches from his heavy gauntlets, but dead silence from within the sphere. Relier, in an act of heroism, neutralizes this foe where the Violet Guard has failed. He's garbed in purple and black and silvers. He's clearly a warlock or a shadow priest of some regard. Beats this man into a pulp before dropping his silent sphere before the man is even conscious. Tells the Violet Guard, get their shit in order, as he hands over the body, and he blips back up onto the balcony. Coria congratulating him, saying he did so good, perfect, just as they had needed. The next day, the day that they had planned with Vargoth to head on up to Winterspring, Coria gives a speech. She was heading the Sect of Shadow of the new religious building being built near Crossus's Landing. This was supposed to be Dalaran's attempt to kind of unite the light and shadow back into the city once more, but with a holy man, a priest, someone working with the Scarlet Crusade, somebody who's devoted to the light, attempting to perform this terroristic act. Saving this town, Coria, a priest of shadow, someone who is typically looked down upon for scheming and plotting and being generally, quote-unquote, evil. She's had enough of it. She abolishes further construction of the Sect of Shadow. She does not want to participate in this if she has to even share a town with these loathsome light wielders who desire to twist this rivalry of light and shadow, with light being good and shadow being evil, a narrative so many people all around the world has been told for so long. She doesn't want to be part of it. And she encourages anybody who is a practicer of shadow, warlock, priest, mage, anybody who is interested in further advancing their steps in these magics, who should have an environment where they will not be looked down upon, a group where they can feel like they are included and worth more than what the words of the commoners who believe them to be evil and have been told such by the holy people. If they wish to be somewhere where they can be with like-minded individuals and do their own good work, come talk to her. She'll be arranging teleports for everybody tomorrow. And a lot of people do. Obviously, not more than like 5% of the total city. There are people here who have been born and raised here, whose parents have lived and died here. People who have kids here. Not everybody in Dalaran is a mage, and even less than maybe 10% of the population is priests. This construction was specifically began to try and get more people than just mages in the city. It's important to have. There are things that priests and paladins can do that mages cannot, and it's supposed to be a good way for these forces to combine. But ultimately, with whatever this was, whether it was Coria having insider information and knowing this attack was going to take place, or her planting it, or her just divining it and being in the right place at the right time, it has occurred. Vargoth meets up with them, says that there's some crazy shit going on, and that they have a lot to do, the council that being, but it's probably best that the party get to work. He'll try to deal with this along with his council members as quickly as they can. It's a complex situation. This isn't room for mercenaries to be involved in. Amora, a shadow priest, is told specifically by the voice in her head to not follow Coria. She is a false shepherd. Interesting. Something to note. But they go to Jericho. They bark at him because they hate that he eats burritos and that they don't get to eat burritos. It is what it is. Life of players, huh? So envious of the humble Jericho. Just a small little landlord. They teleport out. And thus they are Winterspring. Now, this is the end of the second session, and we will start the third session, the most recent session. I had, in between these sessions, my player Zara roll on a D100 to determine what state Winterspring would be in when they got there. High, good. Low, really bad. Have her roll a D100. She She rolls the double-digit counter first. 00. Can't be higher than a 9. She rolls a single digit. It's a 6. What are you going to do? She gets a 6 out of a D100. That's fine. I just said high was good. So, it's the luck of the dice. It's out of their hands. They come there. And, this was going to be a horror mission from the get-go. My players, 2 of them, specifically said they wanted something, because I asked them in between, like, what type of missions are you guys looking for? This is collaborative. I don't want to just make missions that I want to see you guys go on. I want to give you guys missions that you would think are interesting. So they give me broad strokes. Horror mission. I think there was like a catch and release mission. Let me see if I have these notes here. I have these notes somewhere. Oh, here we go. Horror mission. This one. Going to a town of holy people, like paladins. They like the idea of fighting other mercenaries and having them just like work out an arrangement for the mercenaries to fuck off. They want to take over a town. And I have the name of a tower here that I don't think any of my players know about, so I will not say that one, because that's probably just me. But those are their broad ideas for missions at that point. Now, 6 on a D100. Bad to good. Low, good. Low, bad. High, really good. They get there, and they teleport into like a designated building where there's a small little, almost conference area. There's a few tables. There's a bar there that sells reagents and stuff. Mages are supposed to teleport in, and it's like, oh, hey, you need anything? Well, we got it all set up right here. You can just buy some on your way out. Have fun in Winter Spring. Nobody there. Doors broken open. Heavy storm outside, keeping it open. Battering against the door frame over and over again. Turn around, there's a single body of a human. Single red streak. My warlock goes up to harvest soul shard. He's described this as a very bloody ritual. This is completely up to the player. He describes it as a very bloody ritual where he carves them up and physically gets his hand kind of into the center of their being, like their mass, and rips the soul shard out as it manifests. Blood's still warm, despite being so cold. Odd thing to note, they get out of there and they start looking through this small, 8-building walled town. If you've ever been to Winter Spring in World of Warcraft, you know Everlook. This is Everlook. It's a little goblin town. And they will search all these buildings. And most of these buildings, they don't find anything. Just nobody. They find nobody. That was the only body they find. They check the town hall. There is a bounty for information on a missing flight master, gold for return of Yeti eyeballs, and in the office of the, I guess, mayor, but mayor is probably not the best word for a small town like this. Not even a town. It's 8 buildings. It's mostly just an adventure hub for adventurers to come in and provide the business to, and then fuck off. They find in the process of being made a wanted poster for a creature called the Frigid. Vargoth was talking about some weird creature that's probably just a Yeti. It's whatever. Yetis exist in Winter Spring. They're scary. They come up, they maul you, and then they eat you or whatever, and you go missing and nobody ever finds you. Weird. I'm sure it's nothing. Eventually they go and check out a general goods store. This is a little bit out of order, but that's fine. They go and check out a general store, and there's a small room behind the counter that leads into another room behind it. Our warlock sends in his demon, Daxo, to go check it out. Demon goes in there. They loot the room. Daxo doesn't come back out. Warlock's calling for him. Doesn't find him, just his axe. Sure, it's fine. They bail. They look around. Now they're kind of getting in their own headspace. It's kind of weird for a demon to either be charmed and lose his axe, be instantly destroyed, or just wander off without his weapon. It's really weird. It's against the warlock's wishes for sure. So now they're making perception checks. They don't see anything. They just see, snow building up on top of the roofs oddly, as it does in this harsh storm. Their vision is kind of limited because of the heaviness of the blizzard. It's It's not quite a blizzard by definition, but it's a step or two below. Magnus sees like this weird ass gargoyle that's like just the silhouette of like one of the big fucking coughed wings on the top of the mage building. It's kind of like a gothic little town. It's whatever. It's a mage building. Mages are weird. They go look around for a few more things, and eventually they come back out, have them make another perception check because they're so crazy. They just want to roll perception checks all the time. Magnus gets another successful perception check. Gargoyle's missing. Gargoyle's gone. It's whatever. I'm sure it's nothing. They see this humanoid creature, this duster jacket, these really long claws just kind of chilling near a wall. And then by the time that they peek back around the building after like being like, okay, this is what we're going to do. You're going to do this. You're going to go around there. You're going to cast this. They see just the tail end of it hopping over the fucking 8-foot tall wall. Casually. Which is fine. And they set off through the gates. They find, at the bottom of the slope that kind of winds downward to where the path should be, they find a small roost, where typically one could assume a griffin probably is. No flight master, though. And a single snow shovel that is stuck down into the snow. And they realize there's nobody that has been shoveling the path, so there's no more path. This is where I get to test out my hodgepodge of 5e and Frozen Frontier rules for both movement during weather, and weather effects. I even wrote a sticky note for the session: every 4 hours, encounter check, con check, if applicable, and everyday rations plus water. Still forgot to ask him for that 2 or 3 times. You win some, you lose some, you know. DMs are players too, we make mistakes. But they carry on in the rough direction. They only have a few hours to make progress, and it's a moderate, so it's really difficult to make progress. They roll the minimum amount of movement possible. It's halved because it's difficult terrain. They get like a mile out of the city. And while they're bedding down, the Helmet of Rumors, which my priest Amora is wearing, picks up something talking to itself under its breath, referring to her within a mile, saying, not knowing that the players can hear it. Oh man, they're stopping so soon. I did a better voice than that. I'm not going to do it. Amora's freaking out. Shenox gets up in arms. I don't know what he's doing. He's talking about, well, why are we going to stop? And then Amora says, well, because there's a fucking thing following us, probably that thing back from town. And then Shenox is like, well, okay, then let's just sit here then, I guess. Let's just sit here and die. And she says, well, the other choice is that we push through the snow in the middle of the night and we get picked off one by one, and we're all exhausted if we do live. Shenox is like, okay, yeah, it's a great idea. Let's sit here then. I don't know what's happening. He was a little argumentative. It was funny. It was good. It's good meme. Good meme. Survive they do. Some interesting encounters. It's a little bit of a spat, I believe. A little bit of combat. But overall, the night goes on fine enough. They hear some weird noises throughout the night. The noise of some large creature moaning out in pain, maybe a mile away or so. It is loud and it is short. Next morning they wake up. HP restored, their MP back. They memorize their spells. Encounter check. Ice methods. Ice methods attack. It's whatever. They kill the ice methods. Cool. They dealt with a saber-toothed tiger as well in the night. They just gave some food and it fucked off. That's all it wanted. Easy peasy. See? Next day, they travel on upward. I've been keeping track of where they actually are, because they have a map, but remember, this isn't Skyrim. You don't have an exact indicator of where you are on the map at all times. So on my GM layer of Roll20, I was keeping track of their actual movement, roughly where they are. And they continue to where... excuse me. They continue westward. Try and find that signpost or that crossroad where the 3 paths meet from the far western side of the zone, Everlook, and then the path that leads northward up to Starfall Village. And I have them roll an encounter check. And they encounter the Frigid, who is that same man. Clawed in the duster jacket, the kind of stained undershirt, these gloves that are torn towards the fingers with these claws that extend out like 2.5 feet. They're held up, like they're contorted in such a way to where they are drag along the ground. He's got like these charcoal pants and these heavy workman boots. This little baker boy's cap. He has his head down so they can't see his face, but he's facing towards them. And as they move towards him, he'll back up, and they start trying to talk. Magnus does the talking. He's a charismatic fellow. This guy's not having any of it. He tells Magnus to stop speaking all these words that just run in circles. He's wasting his time. They keep pushing, and eventually this guy just kind of stops really giving him anything useful. Why would he give a shit about these people? He says, you guys heading up north? You the lot from Dalaran they sent? Or the second batch, anyways. Freaks him out a little bit. Makes him a little nervous, because unlike last time, nobody spilled the beans on Dalaran this time. It's an odd thing for this individual to know. I think it was at this point they asked how he knew they were from Dalaran or something like that. And he referred to an individual called My Old Lady. It's weird. Fucking weird. Eventually, they get a little bit too close, and he fully backs up. He can tell these guys are mages. They're from Dalaran. People who aren't mages don't really come from Dalaran. He knows the rough radius of movement and stuff. He knows that these people are going to have a hard time moving in the snow. So he just fucks off. He gets down a part where because typically paths are elevated and then areas around them slope downward. He gets into the part that slopes downwards, and he starts making his movement at full movement because it's his favorite terrain. This is where he is. This is what he does. And they carry on northward. A little bit of arguing. It's fine. Classic player stuff. It's fun. Love listening to it. They move northward, and eventually they find Starfall Village, where there is, up this steep incline, is 3 elven structures. There's like this larger inn at the far right as they come up. Straight across is a moon well, and off to the left is a smaller, more personal building and what looks like to be like a greenhouse or something of the sort. Maybe like a gazebo, something like that. They go in, they investigate while they're bedding down for the night. It's getting dark. Magnus is noticing that there is a distinct lack of personal items here. Like this place was vacated, whereas Everlook was vacated as if spontaneously. Like people didn't take any of their belongings, people didn't finish the food on their desks, and they didn't take the goods in their stores. This place actually is missing a lot of stuff. There's just like beds with like a single blanket. There's a few books that are strewn or laid on these bookshelves or tables. Stuff like candles and the likes are all gone. Of the few books, he's able to find one that refers to a Darnassian herb that kind of grows exclusively up here. It is made only in like super cold, high peaked areas, which Winter Spring is one of the only places in the world that fit that description. Referred to as snowfall. Although the book kind of assumes that the Kaldori reading this knows what the purpose of this is. It does say it's mostly used in ceremonial or religious rituals. Might be something for them to note. And we establish watches. Magnus and his demon Daxo, who's got a little cold feet after getting one shot, set up watches. And I do something that I think I'll do further. I had them roll 3 perception checks for each of them, because 3 for Daxo, 3 for Magnus, and I rolled on a d4, 4 being a reroll, which one I would use for each of them secretly. So then that way, because if I say nothing's happening and they got a 25, then they know that nothing's actually happening. But if they roll a 25, a 3, and a 12, and I roll which one that they're actually going to be using, and they don't know, and I say nothing's happening, they could just as likely be getting the 25 one, where they know nothing's happening, or the 7 one, where something might be happening and they don't know, and that irks them. I believe Magnus rolled really good on 2 of them. Daxo rolled like okay on 1 of them. The other 2 were horrible. I rolled a d4 for each of them. I think Daxo got like a natural 1, and Magnus got the one that was like a natural 2. Really unlucky. So, playing fair, I say nothing's happening. And then Magnus, you were pounced upon by this man with large claws as he bites and slashes into you. Fight ensues. Maybe I'll show the stat block if they ever either make friends or kill this creature. Either way, fight ensues. I let my Frigid get a full surprise round on my player. I think it's fair. They thought it was pretty fair too. Magnus doesn't go down. Incredible. We roll initiative. I believe the Frigid got to go again, but actually missed a lot of these attacks. He missed 2 of his 3 attacks on the second round, and I think he missed 1 on the first round. And Magnus is able to, during his turn, he's low, but he's alive. He's able to Misty Step to the other side of the balcony. So on the opposite side of where he was. Over 30 feet. I think he steps forward another foot or so, which does get him within 30 feet of this creature to cast a spell on him. But he's able to get away. He's built some distance. Teammates wake up. Amora, Amora's is using a 2e spell called Iron Vigil, where she just has to enter a meditative state. As part of my rulings, I allow 2e spells within reason. I only do that because I know Zara is probably going to be the only one using that. My other 2 players aren't as experienced with 2e or like the media around it. It's completely fine. 2e spells generally tend to be weaker. Sometimes they have these high power spikes where they just do some bullshit. That's when we'll actually discuss it. Stuff like Iron Vigil, though, is fine by me. Something along the lines of you gain a little bit to AC, extreme weather doesn't affect you, you don't have to sleep, you enter a meditative state, and it lasts for a certain number of days, I think, per priest level. And when it ends, you are just super lethargic and exhausted, and you have to sleep for, I think it's 24 hours per week you spent awake or some shit. You can keep casting it to chain it together, but eventually you will crash. It's if somebody, for example, if somebody used Dispel Magic, the effect ends and then you fucking crash. She's instantly ready. She's in full armor. Something I was hoping to get him with is you can't have your armor on because you're sleeping, but very smart. She used Iron Vigil. However, Erevan, my mage/priest, I elect to say, because you are asleep, you are last in initiative, you're the last to go. It just makes sense. Amora comes running out after Magnus gets away and casts some spells. She comes out, weapons ready, shield up, and tries to put herself in between Magnus and the creature. Magnus has his demon run up, make a few attacks against it, gets some good hits with its +2 axe. I think the creature instantaneously eviscerates the demon again and takes an opportunity attack from Amora to get up on Magnus again. I believe it made a bite attack or something as well. It has multi-attack, 2 claws, 1 bite. Erevan gets to go. He has a really strong spell called Pyro Burst. It's basically a lower level fireball. I think it's almost exactly fireball, but it has to be centered on a creature and you get it a level earlier. This was something I was a little tentative on because, getting fireball earlier and without using a slot is pretty good. But continuously throughout this fight, there was the issue of his teammates being in the 5x5 centered on the creature. And that's exactly what I wanted. That is the perfect balance I wanted to strike is you get fireball earlier, but you're going to hit more people, especially your teammates, if you have any martial characters or if there's creatures that are up against your teammates. Because it's not like fireball where you can angle it, where you just hit the enemy, you throw it past your teammate and you hit the enemy with the outward blast. It's perfect. It's exactly what I wanted. Time and time again, he was faced with the issue of wanting to use this really powerful spell to do a lot of damage, but unfortunately would hit his teammates and would fucking immediately eviscerate Magnus and do a shit ton of damage to Amora because she has low dex. It's perfect. It was exactly what I wanted. So he's slinging fire spells. This kind of song and dance of the creature jumping onto Magnus, Magnus teleporting away, creature jumping over to him, Magnus teleporting away, continues for another round or 2. Eventually, he starts taking a few shots at Amora. He's missing a lot of these attacks because of her high AC. And I think he mutters something along the lines of, okay, I see the dynamic we got going on here. You tank, you 2 run around and throw shit at me. I get it. I understand. Eventually, a turn comes up where Erevan is in a not so advantageous position. He is near the balcony edge. I have the Frigid, a smart smart humanoid creature, run over to him and push him off the balcony. Uses this whole action. It's great for them. Terrible action economy. Instead of making 3 attacks against Erevan, he just pushes him. What an idiot. Erevan's turn comes up, and I tell him, because he wants to fire blast him, he wants to pyro burst him, but the issue is, he doesn't have line of sight. It's too steep of an incline upward to be able to see him. So I say, if you back up from the building, like away from the building, you could get a visual on him. Because instead of being like too high up, you're like at an angle like this. Because the guy was close to the balcony too, because he had to push Erevan. So he backs up, and he gets to cast a few spells at him. Not quite Pyro Burst. Amora was still in range. He didn't want to eviscerate her. Good player behavior, I'd say. Something funny occurs. My Warlock opts to also jump off the balcony. This is funny. Just thought you should know. Wasn't under stress. No, he's just on the other side of the balcony. Very humorous. We all found it quite funny. Amora has a special system for items called Corruption, something that we're testing out throughout this adventure. Basically, items that she gets from her trader have a chance, well, they will be, but they are corrupted. And based on a d20 determines the level of corruption, and then on, I think it's d12, it determines the type of corruption. And we have a few different instances of this. It is something I might detail in more detail in another video as my players see it a little more organically, because I don't want to give away all the fun secrets right away. We've talked about it. I balanced it with her, and it did something dramatic this session, for specifically this combat. There was the lowest level of corruption is that whenever you make I think it's whenever you get struck, you have a chance to have a tentacle appear. A tentacle just automatically grapples the priest. Only has 4 HP, has an AC of 8, automatically fails dex saves because it's stuck in one place. And this tentacle, she rolled low, like 2 rounds in a row to try and break it. So the Frigid is attacking her. He fucks off to go push Erevan, and now she's stuck in place because she's using her action and her spiritual weapon action to try and hit the tentacle, and she got low rolls both times. She misses the tentacle, she doesn't kill it, now she's stuck in place. And I think that is an interesting situation because you can either have an action but not move, or move but not have an action. Because it takes your main weapon attack or a spell or whatever to hit the creature. And even then, it's got 4 HP. It's most likely going to die, but not 100%. It's a risk. I liked it a lot, and I think she's playing around it smart too, because she's taking the spiritual weapon spell. So she can effectively get a second hit on it if she has a spiritual weapon up. I think it's clever. I look forward to seeing it play out more. With this being the first session that has taken place, I forgot to enforce it, especially for the earlier combats. It wouldn't have made too much of a difference, but I would have liked to be a little more on top of it myself. Fast forward back to the future. Amora's stuck on the other side of the balcony with this fucking tentacle. The Frigid just pushed off Erevan. Our brave Warlock leapt off the balcony as well. What are you going to do? And Erevan, having moved back to have a visual on the creature from the balcony, I was able to employ my dirty trick. A leaping maul attack this creature can make. If he has the high ground, he is able to make a leaping maul attack, where he is able to, if he has 10 feet of distance to run forward in a straight line towards the target, he can move up to double his remaining movement, jumping towards them, and they'll take a little bit of claw damage. Additionally, they make I think it's a strength save or a fall prone. After that, the creature gets to make another claw and bite attack. This is great. I got to show off almost all the creature's abilities. Whenever he strikes, you have to make a con save or else have your constitution lowered. Whenever he bites you, you have to make a con save. If you fail, he reduces your max HP. I love it. I'm really glad I got to show off the capability of this monster, especially with how deadly it can be, knowing now that it knows their dynamics. It knows who to go after first. It knows that Erevan is the squishiest, and it knows that Magnus is pretty mobile, but squishy himself. And he knows that the priest, doesn't sleep and is in heavy armor. It will allow this creature to... It's a trade of information. The players know a lot more about it, but they're in his turf. this creature is able to use. I feel like this creature is able to use this information just as well, if not better, than the players. He leaping mauls him. He does a shit ton of damage, and I think Erevan lives with 3 or 4 HP remaining before getting knocked down. Final attempt. Magnus backs the fuck up away from the creature because he doesn't want to get mauled, because if he gets attacked, he's probably going to go down too. And if Magnus is down and Erevan becomes down and Amora's still stuck on the balcony with the fucking tentacle, this thing might just eat one of them. This thing might just take it off into the night like a fucking Wendigo snatching up a child, and they'll never see him again. Magnus runs away, throws a few more spells at it. Erevan uses his Intervene ability. Homebrew ability, gain 1d2 exhaustion after the ability, but he gets to do fire damage and an AoE around him. He has all creatures that can see him make a wisdom save or be frightened, and he does additional fire damage based on his levels in mages. That's a very strong ability, but you can gain up to 2 exhaustion from it, which is really bad, especially in an environment like this where you are going to be hunted. But the chips are down. He's doing what he has to do. Creature makes a natural 1 on its saving throw. It is frightened. It cannot willingly move towards him. His attacks have disadvantage while he can see Shenox. And Shenox backs up with the disadvantage on the creature. Creature misses his opportunity attack. Shenox backs up and can finally Pyro Burst and does a shit ton of fucking damage to this thing. Next turn, creature has says a similar thing as he did last time. I understand now. I get how you guys work. I'll see you around. See you in the peaks, eh? And he fucks on off. And that is where the session ends. There was a discussion about player survivability at the end as well, which I think I'll make another video. Overall, over these 3 sessions, I think we have done a lot of good work. One may think, and reasonably so, that the horror aspect of the mission is lowered because they know what this creature is capable of. They know how to work around it. I say nay. This creature is smart. It speaks their language. It knows they're from Dalaran. It knows how they fight, how they like to fight, what their tricks are. And although he is simple, he's fairly martial in his capabilities. He didn't seem to cast any spells on them. This is his home turf. He is extremely agile. And he has a mysterious entity that he is at least exchanging information with, this old lady of his. We have another session next week, and I am very interested to see how my players play further with this, because it also came up that the Chalk of Returning can't really be used in an emergency situation, because there's snow everywhere. They have to be on like a foundation or in a building or on like a cliff face where there's no snow that's been cleared off and isn't moist at all to be able to use it. They have the Runes of Return, which can bring a few people. I'm pretty sure they have the highest tier one. So if they're all next to each other and one of them spends a full turn action, start to finish, to start of their next turn to teleport, without having their concentration interrupted, they can teleport away. But with the sled they bought and all the gear they bought for this expedition, it'll be risky. Because if they teleport away, they escape with nothing but what's on their people and their lives. It will be rough. And that is something I want to have. I want them to feel like they cannot really leave at any moment as they want to. They have checkpoints. Starfall Village is a checkpoint. Everlook is a checkpoint. If there's any caves along the way, like near the mountain faces, those are checkpoints. But if they're just in the middle of the snow, which a lot of Winter Spring is, the best opportunity for escape they have is to just take their lives and run. And hopefully, this keeps the tension up, knowing that if they're caught out, if they're not in the right position, can just be murdered in the snow, or they can leave with nothing and lose, I think it was 8,000 gold worth of equipment and preparingness and days of work and travel. Be interesting. This is a little bit more shorthanded. The last few sessions I didn't find much particular of use talking about has happened in, so I'm just doing a 3-session catch-up game. I'll probably miss some details. It is what it is. Look at this fucking guy. This is the stupidest picture ever. That's it.